All right, so we're starting to see a few short sales and foreclosures out there, guys. I tell you, it's with all the political stuff going on, no football. It's and every school district is doing something different. It's crazy. They just announced Madison Plains is going full time to school in person.
Oh, wow.
Wow, they're one of the only ones.
Yeah, that's the first one I've heard that they're completely all in.
Oh, wow.
Delaware City had a meeting the night before last to talk about whether or not they were going to go full-time in person.
Really?
There was a lot of backlash, so they are still on the fence, but thinking that they'll do blended like Olentangy.
Karen, do you have school-age kids? You can talk or put it in the chat, either way. There's Troy
There I am.
Marsh, or maybe Troy
There I am.
Marsh, or maybe
There you
Lisa,
Hi.
Talisha.
Can,
Hi,
oh,
hi, Karen.
Karen's
I
here.
hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm like on a different device and I'm like, oh no, where do I mute or unmute on this device? So I'm sorry. Yeah, my daughter's actually, this might induce some panic. My daughter's daughter, friend of hers, is on a cheer team, and they went forward with the cheer team practice tryouts, and someone on the cheer team has come up with COVID.
Oh, no.
So they're
Oh.
canceling all the, so fortunately she was not in that group, but yeah, they're canceling all the cheers. So I'm guessing that was just in the Olentangy district. When schools start opening up, all kinds of stuff is going to take place like that. And they're going to like start, you know, backing off having school in person, right? So if one already happened like that on the cheer team.
Are you in Madison Plains?
I'm in London, so this was the Olentangy district.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't have any news what's going on here, but yeah, that's pretty close to Columbus.
Yeah, I think you're right across the lake from me, aren't you?
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Hi.
I'm on Shoshone.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on
Main-
East Choctaw. Yeah.
in the Main Cove. Yeah.
I'm not all that familiar. I've only lived out here about 3 years with my fiance. So yeah, I'm kind of, how long have you been out here?
Full-time 6 months, but we had a weekend house for 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get over on the west side that much. I really don't, yeah, not totally familiar with all the streets and things yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ones that have been here for a long time, but such a beautiful little community.
We love it. We just love it. And it's so close to Columbus. Hi, Teresa Kenny. So we're going to get started here. It's about 4 minutes after 2, and we might get some more people popping on, but I'm going to go ahead so as not to waste your time. Was it your understanding that we had 45 minutes today or 60? I don't know what Angela scheduled us for. So I would love for you guys to jump in, tell us, talk to us about anything that you're doing differently than we are, or anything that you're finding that's working. But let me introduce, you guys know me already, Sue Parrish. I'll let the 2 other team members from the Parrish team introduce themselves. Ashley, you want to tell us who you are and what you do on the team?
Yeah, I'm Ashley Fortmeyer. I serve a couple of different roles on the team. I was a buyer's agent for a few years, and now I help out with admin. I help with the listing books, getting listings together, and just general support when the team needs it.
Awesome.
Christy Parrish. I joined the team 10 years ago as a showing assistant, and then I graduated to buyer's agent, and then I have now since started working with listings. So I work with both buyers and sellers on the team. I previously did marketing, and now Ashley is doing that. So
great. All right. So, so buyer's market, is when there is more than 7 months of inventory in the marketplace. A seller's market is when there's less than 5 months of inventory. A neutral market is considered to have about 6 months of inventory of homes. And and a seller's market. Hi, Greg Harris.
Hello.
Hi. I don't have any handouts or anything for today. We're just kind of going through what the Parrish team positively nailing it and selling it listing plan, and we're just getting started here.
All right.
So we currently have, if you look up on the MLS every morning, which you should be familiar with our multiple listing and the counties that you specifically cater to or work in. Today, in all of our 9 contiguous counties that are in the represented in the MLS, there are 6,371 listings today. 2,467 are active and 3,904 are pending, under contract, or contingent with an escape clause. Now, 2467, that is after doing a full analysis on absorption with that number, that is a 1.2 month inventory supply. That's it. That means all of those 2467 active listings could completely be gone in less than 2 months. So I thought I'd just mention that because this is where we were in 2006 before the last shift. Now that last shift was very different than the shift we're going to be experiencing moving forward now. That was an economic crisis. We are in a health crisis. The health crisis is leading us into an economic situation. I don't think it's going to be as drastic of a crisis, but we have to be ready for it. So Christy and Ashley and I and our team have been experiencing an amazing seller's year. You know, for sellers, it's just an amazing time. They're getting all-time highs, multiple offers, escalation clauses, and it can be a very confusing and trying and anxiety and stressful time as well. So I'm just going to run right through here. You guys, Karen and Greg, stop us if you want to add anything to it, if you have any ideas or something, you know, something that's working better in your world as far as working with sellers. But we're just going to run through this real quick. Christy, do you want to talk about when we get the initial call, what that looks like, what that conversation looks like with the seller?
Yeah, so when we get the initial call, our biggest thing to figure out is what their motivation is, what their time frame is, and I think the most important, are they interviewing other real estate agents for the job? We actually have a form that we use to kind of guide our conversation. You know, ask them their name, ask them, you know, where they live. Obviously, we know where they live. You know, we typically will circle back and have another conversation with them after we've looked up the specifics of the property and kind of looked at the recent sales. So we have a better idea of what the houses are selling for in the neighborhood. But with either initial conversation that you want to have is, you know, find out a little bit about what they've done to update the property. So the nice thing is if we can find a previous version in the MLS, you know, you at least have something to go off of as far as the floor plan, as far as, you know, basically what the layouts of the kitchen are essentially. Otherwise, if you have nothing to go off of, you know, you can look at the county auditor, see, you know, the drawing of the property and stuff like that, and kind of fill in the blanks. But yeah, is that what you wanted?
Yep, just gathering the initial information and asking great questions. They're going to, it's like a doctor. You go into the doctor, he doesn't just stare at you. He asks you great questions and says, where does it hurt? And how long have you been having this, et cetera, et cetera. That's our job. And as we go into this economic reaction to the health crisis, we are going to be having to really study the great scripts and great questions in shift, because if somebody hasn't made their mortgage payment for 3 to 6 months or 9 months or more, and because Trump put a bill together at the beginning of COVID-19 that they couldn't lose their house, they couldn't be foreclosed on or beginning process of short sale for a period of 3 to 6 months, if that doesn't get extended, we're going to start we will need to know those questions that we ask. And some of the questions, and Christy learned in 2000, she got in the business in 2010 at the peak of the recession. And she saw her parents asking the tough questions. And the tough questions are, so do you have a first mortgage? Great. Do you have a second mortgage? No. Okay. Do you have a home equity line of credit? A lot of people don't have a clue that that's a mortgage, considered a mortgage on the property. And then, are you current with your first and your second mortgage payments? And I can't help you if you don't tell me the truth. And this is 100% confidential, but there's a lot of amazing scripts that we'll be, beginning to use. You can also find that form, the information forms for buyers and sellers, in Win with Sellers, Ignite, and Shift. And if you can't find it, let me or Angela or Talisha know, or Troy, and we'll show you where to find them. There's some great forms. There's no reason to reinvent the wheels. We have so much available at our fingertips on KW Connect. Pre-listing. We aren't doing a whole lot of pre-listing packages right now. We don't need to because the market's moving so quickly. However, I think we are coming to a shift in the very near future. I know our pipeline was full for the first 7 months, and now coming into August, we're slowing down a little bit. So I like pre-listing presentations, and Ashley, that's something that you generally put together and enjoy, putting that together, and that really leads to an easy listing presentation. If they have a pre-list, you've got your marketing plan in there, you have a comparative market analysis, and then we have a cover letter that says, if you like what you see, then please fill out the residential property disclosure, the lead paint disclosure if applicable, and please have 2 keys to your front door made and tested so that they work. So it's really a lot of fun when we then schedule the listing appointment in person or on Zoom. And when, let's say it's in person, and we get to the house, and there on their kitchen table is our Keller Williams folder, and inside are 2 keys and a completed residential property disclosure. That generally means we're getting the listing, and we usually feel pretty excited.
And we also do 2 other things too. This is kind of a newer thing. The first one is we kind of ask them to fill out a general information page. And that's something that we used to just kind of have for ourselves behind the scenes, but now we have kind of, Ashley has tweaked it so that we can just directly upload it to the MLS as an attached document. So we tell them, ahead of time, this will be attached, but basically it starts off with who are your utility providers. And then that way, when we go to get all the way to the closing, somebody doesn't have to track down the utilities, but also we have, average costs of the utilities. If it's a condo and it's included, they'll just write included. They have condo association contact information, monthly fee assessments, and then we have, ages of things. So we've got, refrigerator, dishwasher, all the way down. We've got, furnace, AC unit. And then some people have like whole home generators or a hot tub. So we just kind of put, additional upgrades worth mentioning. And then they can, add as they see fit. And then the second page that I like to ask for is a Word doc outline form of everything that they've done to the property. And you'd be surprised, they don't see this as work, they want to do this. That way, when we're walking through the property with them, we're not discovering for the first time that they updated the kitchen in 2017 and that they have quartz counters. We already have that on our sheet, and so we can say, oh, okay, so here in the kitchen, you've referenced that you have, updated blah, blah, blah. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention? Like age of cabinets, or is this a painted cabinet versus a laminate cabinet? So you're kind of adding on to what they've already said. You're not spending an hour just trying to figure out what the age of every single thing in their house is. So if they send you that outline ahead of time, you kind of have that to work off of. So I really personally like that. It keeps everything kind of short, sweet, to the point.
I love that. I love that. And every buyer wants to know, right? You get your first showing and they're in the house and they call you and their people really like it. and they say, well, tell me the age of the roof. And you're not going, I can't remember. You've got it right in front of you. And so that's awesome. Thank you. We actually put that in our loop so we have that information. If we're not physically in the office, right, we put it somewhere we can all have access to it. Okay, so then we scheduled a listing presentation. A lot of our listing presentations start on Zoom, and this is where we even ask more questions. We explain how we work for our sellers, who does what on the Parrish team so they know who to call. And we have this in a PDF piece of paper, so they know they don't just have to call Christy, or they don't just have to call Ashley. They know that they can call the person they're working with primarily, but also maybe one of the admins, Ashley or Kylie, to get a quicker answer. Sometimes getting a quick answer from Chipper, myself, or Christy can be very difficult. And when you have multiple offers flying back and forth, it takes a village. It takes the whole team. We talk about what they can expect from us and what we expect from them as sellers with the Parrish team. I mean, there's rules and guidelines, and you don't get to change them because, and even though they're paying us the money, we have to tell them how how the process works, right? We talk big picture about the comparative market analysis. Then to set the in-person appointment. So they've got an overview and we've got a general understanding. We might ask questions like, so Bill and Mary, have you been watching the real estate market? If you had a price range that you think or believe your home would sell for, what would that be? Well, 8 times out of 10, they're going to say, that's your job, or I want to hear your number first. And that's fine, but they might give you a range. And if you're not sure, get a second set of eyes, get another agent to help you look at your comparative market analysis. And then, like Christy said before, ask, even if you've asked before, if they're interviewing other realtors. In-person presentation. Christy, you want to go through that?
Yeah, so when you do the in-person presentation, again, as I said, one of the things you want to do is walk through the house with them. Everybody does it differently. I personally like to set everything down at the table and physically walk through the property and talk about it. That way, when we're sitting down, I have a very clear understanding of what the property looks like, in addition to the sheet of upgrades and updates that they've provided. And then, of course, I like to sit down at the table and go over, once again, their motivation. And then, go over kind of what we do to get homes sold. They think we just stick the sign in the yard and pray that people come to us. But, Bold teaches us of the additional P's. We actively prospect for buyers for your property. And then, talk about how we do, multi-level, I think it's like 7-level open houses, and how we will circle prospect for them. And we don't just, so we're different from the next realtor who might just, put a sign in the yard and wait for phone calls. And we go through, so basically we can offer light staging, or we have stagers. We talk about how included in your fee is the, professional photography, a video walkthrough, or a Matterport, or a drone photo, whatever that specific property would be best suited to have. And then, of course, we go over the marketing plan. And then if they are interviewing other agents, we kind of hold some stuff back as far as suggesting. That way they don't just get, free advice from us and they go to the next agent and get free advice from them and then go to the next agent. And then we try to get them to sign the paperwork that day to list with us, whether, we agree to a price or whether there's stuff that's still kind of up in the air. And, we just tell them that we're going to do the best job for them, and we get a contract signed, and then we go over the paperwork. So, and we do most of the paperwork electronically. Property disclosure, as Sue mentioned, and lead-based paint. Those are really hard to do online, we've found. So the general information page and the property disclosure and the lead paint, I like to have them do separately by hand, and then everything else is easy to do electronically. So.
Okay, really great. Like that you mentioned that you don't give a price suggestion right off the bat. I do the same thing. And everybody always wants that answer in the first meeting. And I say, you know what I really like to do is go back to my office, look into the comps even further, and then I'll get you my price suggestion the next day. So I like that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, and we really do a lot of outliers and not cookie cutter houses and neighborhoods. The cookie cutters are easier to give a price range. But I'll give an example of one we just listed on Friday and had multiple offers and got it in contract on Monday, I think. It's in Leafy Dell in Johnstown, Ohio. And she called me. It's a good friend. We sold it to them. And she called me about 2 months ago and she said, hey, is now a good time to sell? And I said, it's a really good time to sell. There's more, explain the market and everything. And then she said, what price range do you think I get? And I said, I haven't seen your house for 12 years. So it's going to be in the range of $2.25 to $2.50. And she said, well, Dave doesn't want to do anything. And I said, okay, so what's the condition? She said, well, we have 8 children and 3 large dogs. And now 5 of the children don't live there anymore. So the triplets just graduated from Johnstown High School. But it's pretty rough. I mean, the dogs and the kids have been pretty hard on it. Everybody was in sports and this, that, and the other. So Chip, we scheduled an appointment. Chip went there in person and came home with some pictures. I mean, it was chocolate brown walls and chocolate brown carpet that was pretty threadbare and dog smelly. And so you have to ask the expectation. If they just want to sell the house fast and didn't care about the price, then we'd say $225 to $235. If they really want to get top dollar, we said they might have to put a little bit of money into painting and flooring, and suggested some staging tips and whatnot. They, of course, were going to list with us. They weren't interviewing anybody else. When they were done, we went over last week and I walked in with the comps in hand and I said, Sandy, we can put $258 on this. That's how great it looks. We put a list price of $258 on it and we have a more than full price contract with a even higher backup contract, ensuring over $15,000 busted appraisal. So this Mark, yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, well, I love the fact that you did that, because when I go into listing appointments, I kind of do the same thing. I say, look, a lot of realtors are gonna, force you to paint and force you to change the carpet. And I say to them, look, if you don't want to do that stuff, then don't do it. Like, your house is gonna sell for less as long as the expectation is there. Don't feel like you have to do these things before you move.
Right.
So, yeah.
And a lot of times, if the people are older and they just don't have the money or they don't have the energy or they don't have the time, then just explain it's a tale of two markets. Price can't fix bad condition, but a good condition can't set a higher price. Right. So in other words, a lot of times people feel that their home, Christy just ran into this. You want to talk about Sawmill real quick?
Sorry, I got a text message. What were you leading into?
Oh, price and condition. How if the buyer or seller, is okay with taking a lesser price because it's not in great condition, they don't want to do the work or spend the money, or if they did spend the money or did do the work, and they want a higher price. I was just thinking about your Sawmill listing.
8382.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically what I told them is, they wanted top dollar for their house because they put $72,000 into it. And we've got this page in our listing presentation that says it doesn't matter what you paid, it doesn't matter what you want, it doesn't matter what your friend says it's worth. It's worth ultimately what the buyer says it's going to be worth and what it's going to appraise at. So if you're not getting any offers in 2 weeks or any showings, it's price, terms, or condition. It's price or condition. But, if you're in great condition, which they were, gorgeous house, $72,000, ripped down to the studs, awesome. But, if they're not going to make an offer based on the fact that it's gorgeous, it's price. And they said, oh, okay, that makes sense. And it's like they had heard that for the first time, but it sunk in, you could tell. So.
Right. All right. So. Okay, so one of my favorite scripts, if they are interviewing other people, is if you choose, Bill and Mary, if you choose to list with us, they might ask you, is this too much furniture in this room? Or am I okay with these purple walls? Don't answer them. then. Don't give free advice. Well, Bill and Mary, if you choose to list your home with the Parrish team, we will come back and go room by room and discuss the agreed upon staging plan and marketing plan with you. Does that meet with your approval? And just make sure they're okay with that. If they're just there, we recently beat out 8 other agents. This fabulous house in Plain City that was almost 700,000. They interviewed 9 realtors because he's an appraiser and he knows tons of tons of realtors. So anyway, in that case, he wanted free advice. And I thought, this guy's just going to get 9 people's opinions and go for sale by owner, which he honestly told us after he hired us out of 9, interviewing 9, and he hired the Parrish team. And he told us, I was going to do for sale by owner, but you were, so your marketing plan and everything you talked about was so amazing. And so I decided you guys are the ones, and we sold it. We actually had multiple offers. Okay, so Ashley is going to tell you, once they agree, we use command as much as we possibly can as a team, and that's growing and getting better every day, but we use opportunities in command. If you get used to it, you can look at your pipeline every day, which is great. So then we move our opportunity from, Ashley will tell you the words because I can never remember, from a certain stage in command to the next one, which means we're ready for paperwork, and then Ashley's all over it. So go ahead, Ashley, what happens next?
Yeah, so we actually changed the names of our opportunities to better match our team. So there's a way to customize the stages within your opportunities to match how you're working as an individual or as a team. So we have one, it's cultivate appointment. And so we can see like somebody is cultivating a relationship with somebody. We're working on getting an appointment. They haven't signed on with us yet. So that way, Kylie and I, the 2 admins, we know what the rest of the team may have coming up on the pipeline, but we also know we don't need to worry about doing anything with these people yet. Once the sellers agree to work with us, we have another category that says ready for paperwork. So Christy goes on a listing appointment. They say, Christy, we're going to hire your team. She immediately goes into command, moves the opportunity over to ready for paperwork. And that way I know I need to go ahead and get the paperwork ready. The seller may not list for another month or 2, but we just find that if they sign on with us, if we can get the paperwork ready then the second they say, all right, let's pull the trigger, the house is ready, the paperwork is ready to go. We've already got it done. We don't have to worry about going back in and trying to do paperwork last minute. So, and then once I get the paperwork ready, we have another stage in our opportunities that says paperwork ready. So Christy can just go into command and she can see, I got the paperwork ready. She can go ahead and either print it out and take it to them to sign, or as she said, we try to do it as often as possible. We try to do it electronically. Especially right now with COVID, people seem to appreciate having the option to just sign and go over everything via Zoom. To just do it electronically, it really cleans things up for us and makes the process go a little bit smoother.
Awesome. So then whoever the lead listing agent is on deck with that seller, then they have a conversation on Zoom or in person and agree. Generally, it's in person. Agree on the action plan. Just like we said, if you choose to work with us, then we're going to come back. And we do physically go back and we talk about their action plan. Any paint needed, flooring needed to be changed or fixed or something. Any interior, water stains on ceilings, exterior. We actually physically, if there's something on the outside of the house that is displeasing, like a crooked mailbox or shutters that are falling off the house, or it's dirty, the vinyl siding is dirty, we actually physically want the seller to come outside with us, except in inclement weather, of course, come outside with us. And we ask them to stand at the front curb, sidewalk, front of the property, whatever it is, and say, let's look at your house with our buyer goggles on or through buyer's eyes, and ask them, if you drove up to this home, what would you see was good about it? And what would you see that needed fixed? Is there something that we can fix? And it really kind of puts them into the buyer's shoes for a minute. And it's really kind of cool to say, wow, I guess I never noticed my mailbox is crooked. Oh yeah, that's where Jeremy backed out and hit the mailbox, and they'll discover that there are some things that don't look perfect. And most people these days are watching HGTV. They know what it should look like, right? Mm-hmm. So then we create a list. We talk about anything that needs fixed with the roof, mechanicals, and then we talk about staging. Like Christy said, we have a keen eye for what to declutter with, what to get rid of. Christy had the difficult emotional job of putting her own home, first home, on the market last week. And as we were going picture by picture, room by room with her on FaceTime, we were saying, you know, lose that rug, move that coffee pot. And it's hard when you're selling your own house, especially as a realtor. And then Chip has always done this. He loves create an ABC list if they choose to work with us. A is emergent. That means before we open the doors, we need to get this done. Sorry, my doggie just got home from the doggie hospital. Hang on, I have to take a break. Christy, you want to finish ABC?
Let me pull it up. Sorry, multitasking. Yeah, so I mean, we definitely give them the items that they need to do before we even open the doors. Our biggest thing is, you know, taking everything off the floors of the closets and trying to minimize, you know, stuff on the floor in any room, obviously, so that your eye goes straight toward, you know, things like decluttering the counters, making more space in the kitchen, etc. And then B is like, you know, get your furnace serviced. You know, the thing we typically just tell them, you know, here's a small list of things to do before you even get the home inspection, because, you know, it could pop up as an issue. And then C is important, but you might not ever get it done. If you've got like a, you know, we would say like if you've got like a GFCI outlet that doesn't trip or something, you know, that's something that needs to be done. But before the inspection, you know, maybe not. They might have you know, possible other electric issues. So that might get stuck in there. So I think we just kind of give a small example for each.
I think that's a great idea. Sue, that you mentioned earlier about having them put on the buyer goggles,
Yeah.
as opposed to just saying, hey, look, you have mold on the side of your house, or hey, look, that bush needs trim. Like let them realize that and say it out loud first.
Right.
I like that idea.
If they just say, oh, it looks so good and I love my, you know, purple front door that I painted, and maybe it's a really bad paint job or really bad color of purple. You know, if they're saying everything nice, then there's a way. People don't like to be told things. They like to self-discover. You're so right, Greg.
Right.
Yeah, cool. And C are important, but you may never get done. Those are those people you go into their house and they have an entire unfinished room in the basement filled with Christmas decorations. Well, that's not emergent, it's not urgent, but it's important that you pack up the Christmas decorations and get them tucked neatly or put into a storage unit because somebody can't see the basement walls. All right, paperwork, either in person or electronically. Explain everything. And when I say that, I mean explain how they can get in and out of the listing contract with you, how they pay the commission, when they pay the commission, explain the purchase contract. We actually do that in the listing presentation, and we tell them to highlight, and if they have questions at the time of doing the actual listing paperwork, that you want them to ask any further questions they might have about our 13-page real estate purchase contract at the Columbus Board of Realtors. All right. So once you've got all the paperwork done, now you're going to schedule, if they're not going to do it and you have to do it, an initial cleaning and decluttering, any staging that you're going to do, they're going to do, or you're going to pay, they're going to pay a stager to do. And then a final, what we call Q-tip cleaning. And a Q-tip cleaning means I come in with my white gloves on, and I have a Q-tip and I go down on your baseboards and I don't find a speck of dust. That's a Q-tip clean, because that's what model homes look like, right? That's what HGTV homes look like. That's what really great homes sell for top dollars look like. Sometimes we schedule a 5 or a 7 point pre-list inspection. And that would be in the case of, I'm going to use an example now. of another property. We met the woman. She called me. I sold her kids' home in Hilliard 23 years ago, and they moved to Marietta, Ohio, to buy a car dealership. And her mother, Melissa's mother, called me around March 1st and said, I'm going to be selling my home. I'm 88 years old. I'm a widow, and I'm going to be moving to a retirement apartment in Marietta by my kids and grandkids. We said, great. COVID was just starting the first week in March, right? We couldn't even remember the name of it. And Chip called it Bud Light virus because we couldn't remember the name of it. It's not coronavirus. And so we had an initial conversation. We filled out our seller's information sheet, found out her motivation. We asked the question, when would you like to be in Marietta? She said, I'd like to be in Marietta by May or June. We said, great. And then we scheduled the appointment for the 10th of March. So on the 10th of March, we kept hearing more and more about it. She and her husband built this home in 1983 in between Upper Arlington and Dublin off of Old Bethel Road. Very unusual home, very unusual floor plan. And the roof, it was a U-shaped house, and you can actually see it on the market now. It's 5377 Bennington Hill if you want to look it up. Interesting home, U-shaped home, custom built with one bedroom, one huge master bedroom on the kind of house side. And then there was an attached apartment, attached by roof and wall, apartment that housed her mother. So custom built. And then they put an Olympic swimming pool in the inside of the U shape of the house. And the tile, the paint, the carpet, everything, plumbing, everything, kitchen appliances, counters, cabinets is from 1983. So we had a real tough time deciding what we were going to do to stage it, get it ready, ask her to do. It was a toughie. We even called several appraisers because we had a tough time pricing it. So because she lived there for so long and had been widowed for several years, we decided that we wanted to do a 5-point pre-inspection list. This inspection revealed not very many, but a half a dozen things that needed fixed or repaired. And our sellers, we orchestrated it with the contractors and painters and concrete people. We orchestrated everything to be done within a timely manner. Now we're in full-blown COVID. This started April 1st. We started the work and recently finished everything. So now we're past her time frame of May or June, but it was because they had a lot more to do. They had to declutter. They had a lot of stuff. And then we scheduled the professional photography. We do drone, static photos, and virtual tour. Christy or Ashley, do you want to add anything to the photography? How important it is?
Yeah, I mean, with photography, it's pretty straightforward. I think the main thing that we focus on is what does the house need? You know, what's the price point? What's the area? Do we need a drone? Is a drone overkill? Just making sure that whatever you are doing for the home, it matches the home.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. And then we've got multiple photographers. So some of our photographers are, really good at video walkthroughs. And if it's I know we're not supposed to discriminate against the pricing of the house, but if it's a large house and there's going to be a lot of video, then we tend to choose the more expensive, I guess, better quality video walkthroughs. Because, the shorter ones with smaller houses, if they're a little bumpy as they walk because they don't have the best stabilizing camera for the videos, then that's one thing. But if you have a 3,000 square foot house and they're bumping the whole time, you're going to get a headache just watching the video. So it's almost counterproductive. So.
Yeah. And I think along with that, like Christy said, we do have a couple, 2 or 3 photographers that we like to use. I think it's really important to have more than one photographer as your go-to, because there are times where Chip will call me and he says, I need you to get a photographer in the next 24 hours because today is Wednesday, we're listing on Friday morning. And so we need a really quick turnaround. Well, if you're only using one photographer, that can be really tough. But if you've got a couple that you can call, then you've just opened up your options. And then you just build relationships with them too. So that way they know that we have photographers that kind of drop everything to get us on their calendar because they know that we use them over and over again.
Yep.
Okay. And
And
now
a lot of them will do contract pricing. So if you're using a photographer and they're constantly charging you $200 for a photo shoot, then get a different photographer, because if you do 5 to 20 or, you know, whatever with one person or one company, they should be giving you a contract price, which will be cheaper. And the longer that you're with them, if they raise rates, we have this one guy actually, and he doesn't raise rates on us because we've been using him for 5 years and we use him so consistently that he gives us contract pricing and does not increase our rates. So we're kind of rent controlled.
And we do between 40 and 60 listings a year. And so with that kind of volume, you know, these guys were very smart to come to us and ask us if we could commit to a certain number with contract pricing. And I think that's a smart thing for a vendor to do.
Along that subject, you said you don't necessarily provide every service for every listing. Like, for example, you wouldn't drone every single house.
Correct.
How do you respond if you're in a listing appointment in a property you wouldn't necessarily drone, or you wouldn't necessarily have what's the dollhouse camera called? Matterhorn or something?
Matterhorn.
Yeah.
What if you wouldn't necessarily do that, but they ask you if you do that? Would you tell them why you would not, or would you just go ahead and do it since they asked?
We tend to not get asked, honestly.
Okay.
I go with our expertise. I mean, if somebody was, you know, really wanting a Matterport and they, you know, they listed $100,000, are we going to fight over it? No. You know, we typically recommend drone photography when they've got some space between them and the neighbors. And we've had people say, hey, can you drone my house? And our response is typically, you know, drone might not look great for this house because the houses are so close together. We can instead propose an idea of maybe having like the parcel, and we, you know, if we've got that red line on the county auditor, and we just do a screenshot and we provide that either as an uploaded document or at the house. And typically they're 100% fine with that. I mean, if one person out of 20 asks specifically for a Matterport, you know, we're happy to do it. If it's a confusing layout, Matterport makes sense. If it's a tight house that's really small, we typically will just say, just standard photos are fine. So honestly, we don't really have too many people ask us for other things.
That's a great question, Greg. We have had the question asked a couple times, and also on smaller homes or homes that are in the flight path of any port authority, airport. The one we just listed on Bennington, it was very touch and go whether it was too close to the OSU airport, and they tried to do it, but the problem was there's apartment buildings, lots of trees, and power towers right there on Old Bethel by Riverside Drive. And they tried and they couldn't get it, so they didn't charge us for it. The other thing that occasionally comes up is if they ask us to do photography and we have any reason to think they might fire us, or they only agree to a 60-day listing, which doesn't happen very often, but it does occasionally. We tell them that we're spending, you know, nearly $500 or nearly $1,000 on photography, professional photography, and we will own that photography. But if they choose not to work with us any longer, do they agree to buy it from us? They can give it to the next realtor, you know, at a discount, but buy that photography. We've never had that happen, but we've had that conversation.
Okay.
Okay, pre-listing on the MLS. Ashley, you're now going to do what?
Yeah, so when I put together the paperwork, we go ahead and pre-list it in the MLS just so that it's ready to go. And that means putting in as much of the information as we possibly can. You know, easy things, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, you know, basically that whole first page of the MLS when you go in, everything but the descriptions and the photos. We try to put it in so that once it's ready to be listed, we've just saved ourselves about an hour of work. It just really cuts down on how much time we're spending the day or the day before that we're listing to get it ready.
Yeah, I've taken as much as 6 hours just to get it, you know, everything done on the same day, and it's so exhausting. So having Ashley and Kylie, you know, do like the pre-listing paperwork and getting it pre-listed on the MLS is like such a huge help. It just it makes such a big difference.
Sometimes I'll spend 45 minutes on the description just because I try to make them all unique and interesting in a certain way. And I'll just, I start in a Word document and just edit and edit and edit. And I'm like, all right, this is getting ridiculous. I need to just finish it. So,
I do the same thing.
yeah.
Yeah, that's why if you can get the boring stuff, the easy stuff out of the way, early, then it's not as big of a deal when you're spending time trying to get the description just right.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing to remember. When a buyer is looking on Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, KW, wherever they're searching for homes, or they're seeing it on an MLS search, you only have a few seconds, maybe 10 to 30 seconds to catch their interest in photos and in words. So if you drone on, no pun intended, if you drone on and on and on and on and on about living room, dining room, bedrooms, bathrooms, you've missed your opportunity to get the hook. You want to get the hook out up front. What is the most compelling reason somebody will buy this home? And if you can get that out up front and then tell the story in the first 12 to 18 photos. Now we put between 35 and 55 photos depending on the size and price of the house, but you lose people typically after the first 12 to 18 photos. Many websites, you want to tell the story in the first 12 to 18 photos, and in the first 300 to 400 characters or words, 300 to 400 characters, not words. MLS takes 800 characters in the general remarks section. We're putting in 800, but you usually lose somebody before they read all 800. Don't overdo photos. There's no reason to have 60 photos in a property unless it's a 17,000 square foot, $2 million property. Determine with the seller the next thing you do is determine with the seller the first showing date and time, then work backwards. And what I mean, Christy, we'll use you as an example, okay? You decided you were ready to go, your house was absolutely perfect, and you could have your first showing last Friday at 5:30 p.m. because of schedules and everything else, right?
Yep.
What time and day did you put it into the MLS or take it from an incomplete listing to an active listing?
I believe we did that on Thursday.
Mm-hmm. Thursday, between 10 and 11 o'clock at night. We like to do right before midnight so it falls into searches that agents have set up for their clients, and also that it falls into searches that people have set up for themselves on various websites. It won't fall into everybody's, but it's funny because after 2 or 3 days of battling multiple offers with 3 listings that we came to the market Thursday and Friday with, we got phone calls on Sunday night, Monday night, and last night saying, wait, I missed that one. I want to see it. And I'm like, why don't you have a search set up for the properties your clients are looking for? Because it's already fallen into 28 other searches that set up showings. And I'm sure hundreds of others that didn't set up a showing. Mm-hmm. But you want to have your best foot forward. So before you open the door to anybody, here's our trick, and please, either one of you tell us if you do something different that works as well or better. We list between 10 p.m. and midnight, or 11:55, 1 to 2 days before the first showing. We want the visual tour, the drone, all documents in place. And one document that we're starting to see, we're not using it yet, but we're starting to see it, is instructions regarding offers. Escalation clauses, do you like them or not? Super sappy buyer letters, do you like them or not? Or did you or your sellers like them? And these are all discussions you can have with your seller. We're discouraging at most of the KW brokerages, we're discouraging super sappy letters because it could be considered discrimination if a seller does or doesn't choose a super sappy buyer letter because of something they read into the letter. Sellers closing and possession needs. So those are kind of like instructions. If you're going to make an offer on the property, this is kind of what we would like to see. And I love that because as we were fielding negotiations on these 3 properties, people were asking for home warranties that we already told them in the description, the exact home warranty name and price that the seller was going to pay at the closing for the home warranty. And they were asking for other home warranties that weren't in there. So as a buyer agent, make sure you go through the agent to agent remarks, you pay close attention to the showing time instructions, and that you know and are armed and dangerous and ready, and you pull up all the documents as a buyer's agent. And as a seller's agent, make sure you've got all these documents before you go live, and when you go live, that all these documents are on there. Girls, anything else to add to that?
Well, that's true. I think that you should always read the documents, and like, for example, when I listed my house, I knew I knew what's going to stay, and I knew what is not going to stay, and I knew what would be negotiable. So I just went ahead and created a sheet that says items that stay, items that don't, and items that are negotiable. And it's just very black and white. And then, you know, I put my ideal closing possession in the agent to agent remarks. So, you know, I feel that if somebody wants to call me and ask me additional questions, that's fine. But, you know, that way it's just very black and white.
The more information you can give everybody equally, the better. Mm-hmm. Okay, so instructions in showing time. This varies, but this is what we do. Here's an example of one. All showings to end by 5 p.m. on Sunday. Now, remember, we list typically on a Thursday or a Friday, 1 to 2 days before the showing date and time start, right? So here's an example of one we listed on Thursday and started showing on Saturday morning. All showings to end by 5 p.m. on Sunday, August 9th. And of course, the caveat is only if you really think you are going to get at least one or multiple offers. If you don't think, or if you think the seller's overpriced it, then you don't need to put this in there. But it's working pretty well for us. So all showings to end by 5 p.m. Sunday, August 9th. Seller to choose primary offer by 6 p.m. Monday, August 10th. Please leave all offers open for acceptance through Monday, 6 p.m., August 10th. Seller reserves the right to accept an offer prior to the above described deadline. That's huge because over the last couple months, people were putting their homes on the market, and the agent said, we're waiting till Sunday or Monday to collect all the offers, and that's what we're going to do. Well, the seller gets 6 offers by Saturday night or noon on Sunday. They say, we're happy. We're just going to take one of these. We're happy. We're going to take one. Well, then guess what happens with the co-op agents? The other buyers' agents are getting very upset. And, you know, cooperation in my vocabulary means be nice, right? Get along with the cooperating agent. Chip put it interestingly yesterday or this morning, we were talking, and we had 17 offers on 3 properties over a period of 72 hours. And of the 17 offers from buyers, 3 were winners and 14 were losers, right? They didn't get the property that they wanted. They may have offered more than asking. They may have put an inspection in with no remedy. They may have insured over any appraisal gap. But they lose. Now, who's the realtor going to be upset with? You, the listing agent, right? So we personally call each and every agent. It's time consuming. There's bad feelings. One lady, she just texted me again on one of the properties, said, and she's Southern. She says, "Oh, honey, won't you just tell me what beat it out over my offer? I thought my offer was so good. And just, can you tell me the price, terms, and conditions?" And I said, "No, I can't. I'm so sorry. They were all good offers. They were strong offers. Yours was a very well-written offer. It just wasn't the one the seller chose to take as the primary contract." And you don't get into a lot of discussion, but be nice.
And some agents let you know by simply changing the status online.
I hate that.
Yeah.
I called through all 8 of my people. I had 8 offers, and I called all of them and tried to give them at least 1 or 2 reasons why. I mean, one was off by price, one was appraisal gap, and those are some things that just buyers can't change. So, you know, in that regards, it's kind of like, you know, well, then they have the kind of comfort of knowing that, well, when they go to make another offer for their buyer, it's, you know, that's kind of out of their hands. But if it's something like, oh, you should have listened to the possession, or, you know, whatever, that's something that they could change. So I try to give constructive criticism if possible. And I always send the receipt of the offer.
Receipt.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the most up-to-date contract offer presented to you, have your seller sign the state agency disclosure and send that back as a receipt.
Mm-hmm.
We had a couple of those this weekend. We had a handwritten one. I think it was a 2010 Columbus Board.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but just be nice. And people say, thank you. Thank you so much for calling me. You know, they normally they just change the status in the MLS, or you get a text message or an email. People, we're having it happen on our buyer's side. And I really appreciate it when I get a phone call from the listing agent.
I do too.
Okay. And then, so seller reserves the right to accept an offer prior to the above described deadline. And then we put in all caps, no overlapping showings. Please follow the CDC guidelines, wear masks, remove shoes, or wear shoe booties provided in the home. Contact whoever the main agent is, Chip Parrish, phone number, with questions and offers. Send offers to email address. Title work to be by Title Connect agency, Sherry Ash, her phone number. And then this goes in showing time, and we put no overlapping showings. We put this in the agent to agent remarks oftentimes as well. So they see it again and again. Ashley, sorry, I'm going to cut you short. But marketing, any other comments about marketing campaigns, social media posts, Zillow checking information?
Really, the thing is that we just follow a set guideline. So we have a new listing, we create a campaign, we do a social media post, we go to Zillow, add the virtual tour, make sure that make sure to go to Zillow and change the yard from square feet to acreage. That's drives me crazy when I go onto Zillow and I look at a property and it says square feet for the backyard. So just making sure that you're going through a checklist and doing the exact same marketing for every single listing. It's a good thing then too when you're presenting a listing presentation to a seller that they can see that we do this, and then they can actually go to your Facebook page and verify they're doing everything that they say they're going to do.
Yep.
And they can go to Zillow too and see if their information's correct. So if you wait 2 to 3 days because you just didn't have time, they're going to probably be pretty upset that you're already breaking, that your promises on what you told them that you would do. So.
Right. And guess who the first person is who looks up their listing on Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, all the websites? Guess who that person is?
Yeah.
Your seller.
Yep.
Right. Use a multiple offer spreadsheet to keep it simple. Christy, explain talking points when explaining multiple offers to your sellers.
So first, I like to make sure that they understand how the purchase contract reads before we even get an offer. And I do that at the listing presentation. I go over everything, basically, and I say, you have the opportunity to have an attorney review this, but here are the main talking points. Then I tell them when we receive multiple offers, I will create an Excel spreadsheet. And as the offers come in, I will send you only the contract because they don't need to see, 7 copies of the signed Parrish team disclosure. So I'll send you only a PDF copy of the contract, but I will also put it in a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet literally reads exactly everything down in, all the way in order. So it's, additional it's price, additional terms, attorney clause, inspection days, et cetera, all the way down. And then we have the net to the seller at the end. And then we just line them all the way up. And then that way, we're having a conversation with them every 1, 2, 3 offers that come in, depending on how quickly and when the time frame is. But that way they can see, just all the way in a line and then net to seller. So some people, obviously it's timing. Some people it's, what's the end number? I don't really care what they're about. And, obviously like deadlines and stuff like that, but then they can just see it all in a row, but we've already had conversations in between. So we're not holding it to, oh, here's the 12 offers, look at them and tell me. It's, here we talked about these 3, we talked about these 3, and now we have 3 more.
So if you had your ideal method of explaining multiple offers to your seller, would that be in person, on the phone, or on a Zoom? Christy?
Oh, I like to talk to them on the phone, but I think Zoom does make sense because then you can Zoom with them and share your screen. I personally will send them a copy of, I put mine in an Excel Google Doc, and that way, or Dropbox even, and that way if I change something, they can immediately see the change on their end.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter. Some people just, I mean, I prefer phone.
Greg, have you ever used the multiple offer document?
No, but I've just done my own Excel spreadsheet. I had a listing maybe 2 or 3 years ago. We got, I think, 10 or 12 offers. So I just made an Excel spreadsheet, kind of broke down exactly what you said before, the important factors, because you can't possibly, or at least I don't, send every 13-page document to them for them to scrub. I mean, that's just, they'd be totally overwhelmed. So,
right.
Yeah,
so there is a tool within Command now that it is a multiple offer spreadsheet. However, it's not super user friendly.
It's not extensive.
Yeah.
That's really the bigger problem is it's missing.
Not all inclusive.
It's missing a lot of information that we need locally. And so I think somebody in Austin, Texas probably made it. So years ago, Chip did a multiple offer Excel spreadsheet, and it's under documents on consultants. Forms in mykw.kw.com in the intranet.
Okay.
So, but anyway, it's just got good stuff. So what questions? We're at 3:02. What questions do Karen or Greg have for us? Or do you have anything that's working really well right now that you want to share with us?
For me, it's been a while since I've been on a listing appointment. I have not had many recently, but that which is why I wanted to hop on here and kind of freshen up and see your take on things.
Good. Do you have any coming up?
I've got these one folks. They're right by. They're in the neighborhood just south of the consultant's office. I met with them in May, and I don't know what they're really waiting on, but I've been kind of talking with them off and on. So hopefully I'll have that one on sometime this year.
Good.
And then that's the only thing in my pipeline for listings, at least.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we're a little dried up ourselves right now. We've been busy all year, but.
Yeah, I mean, I've had plenty of listings I've been licensed 7 years now, but I've kind of been on a dry spell with listings, as I know a lot of realtors have. So I just feel rusty. Even though I've done a ton of them, I feel like I get rusty if it's been several months since I've had an appointment. So
definitely take bold, because before I started working with sellers, I was deathly afraid to talk to a seller. Somebody would say, I'm thinking about selling my house, just casually in a conversation. I'd be like, call Chip and Sue. I don't know what to tell you. But when I did bold, it's like, I mean, at least the in-person bold, you can kind of like bounce objections and objection handlers off of each other. And then just as you get more comfortable, when somebody says, but I want to do this, or but I don't want to do this, or they start giving you objections, it's hard to know how to handle them unless you actually have somebody throwing them at you. So
yeah,
I think bold definitely helps.
Right.
And then my only other question is price objections. And sometimes when I prepare for a listing appointment, I find myself like spending, I mean, I know I want to put in my due diligence, but sometimes I'll be like an hour and a half into like looking at comps and like looking at all the comparable pictures and how's that bathroom look compared to this bath, and like how deep do you go when you come up with your final suggested list price? You know, like, do you spend an hour doing that? Do you spend 20 minutes and then you have it, or?
Well, that all depends. If you do a pre-listing and you send just a kind of we call it sloppy copy CMA, they already have an idea in their head. They're watching the real estate market if they're thinking of selling, and most people are pretty intelligent when it comes to that. But then we bring three, if possible, 3 active listings that we think are comparable. That's tough right now. 3 pending and 3 recently closed that we feel are the most comparable. And then we will print out full color exterior and interior photos, whatever we can find in the MLS. We print out the full color photos. So if they say, oh, the wife says, oh, I paid played bunco in that kitchen about a year ago, and it's not nearly as nice as mine. You can go to that photo and say, look, she must have updated her kitchen since you played bunco with her. And you've got these objection handlers as you go. The other thing, Greg, is to read Shift on Finding the Motivated, and the conversations that we're going to have around pricing with our sellers moving forward into this economic shift are going to even be more important about not testing the market, but pricing it to sell. So in Shift, there's these pricing curves. Do you remember those? Oh, you got in the market right after the shift, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was licensed in late 2013.
Okay. Yeah. So you were after. So in Shift, I can't remember which section it is, but it's pricing it right. So if you go to KW Connect, go to the Shift class and find the student section on pricing it right. There's some slides in there that you can actually print out and put in your listing presentation, either electronic or paper, whichever you do. And they're the pricing curve, and it looks like this, pricing curve. And it says in a declining market, you have to price your house just under the last sale. And in an increasing market, you can price your house ahead of the last sale or above the last sale. So you're going to want to, okay. So yeah, so this was a conversation. This morning with somebody, with an agent, and I had helped him comp this house in Upper Arlington. It's a ranch, and they've done a lot of work to it, and it's in a good but not great area of Arlington. And I said stay under 5. I would stay between 475 and 498. And he said, okay, we get ready to come to the market. And that was about 3 weeks ago conversation, getting ready to come to the market. And he was going to put it on the Arlington virtual tour this morning and get it listed before the tour at 8:30 or 9 this morning. And he called and he goes, can I price it at 5 1/4? I mean, it's just amazing. There's nothing else out there. And I said, well, here's the thing. Are your people more concerned about price or timing? And he said, timing. They wanted to sell this weekend. I said, so my recommendation would be price it at, and I would have had this conversation with the seller if it was our potential listing. I believe you should price it at 498. Make sure everything's on the listing as it goes out fresh, new to the market, and create an auction-like atmosphere and get multiple offers, and it will bid up to maybe 515, 520, 525.
Yeah.
So I found out an hour later he priced it at 519.
And
we'll see.
And when did he when was it active?
Today. I'll look it up.
Okay, so we don't. All right, so we'll see the results of that. Okay.
Right. We'll see how would that work for him. And honestly, in this market, like the condo I was talking about with Christy, she listed and sold the condo 2 or 3 doors down from this one 2 weeks ago, and she sold it in 48 hours over asking, but it was 20 or 30,000 less, right, Christy?
We went in at the strategy of pricing it where the neighbors priced it, where they priced it at 189.9, and I think it's out in the market for 5 days. But we priced it right there, knowing we'd get offers higher. We didn't really care where we listed.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of one thing. Like when I do comps, yeah, there's some houses that are really hard to comp, but like honestly, you just have to go based on what your recent appraisals have been going for, in my opinion. And like everything's been trending upward. So even though there's not a ton of comps, like appraisers are still trying to appraise it, similar to other homes. I would say, my biggest thing is stick within a similar price per square foot based on something that is a similar square footage. So like appraisers aren't going to look at your house if it's 2,000 square feet and compare it to a 1,200 square foot 1-story. If you have a 2-story, they're going to compare it to a 2-story. If you have a 1,700 square foot house, they're going to compare it to 2,000 to 1,400. They're not going to go down or up. So, I mean, it doesn't matter if you have a basement or an extra bedroom or a finished basement or a garage. I take all that stuff out. I try to get, within, if it's like 3 bedrooms, I do 3 to 4 bedrooms, and then full bathrooms. You could probably get away with 1 less full bathroom just to comp it to, but I always start off with comparing an exact. So if it's a 2-story, I do 2-story. If it's got a 2-car garage, I do 2-car garage. And then I see how many comps I get exactly in that subdivision within the last 6 months to 9 months. And then if I don't have anything, then I start loosening everything up. I do, okay, well, maybe it could have 3 bedrooms. Maybe it could be a 4-level. Maybe it could have 1-car garage. So, but I always start with the exact match and I back it off from there. I loosen it up.
Okay. Yeah, I do a very similar, if not exact, strategy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do either of you have any other questions? I've got another Zoom in 5 minutes that I'm going to hop onto. Did you guys find this helpful?
Yeah, thank you so much. And I appreciate the information and shaking off the rust a little bit.
That's awesome, Gray. Let us know how we can help you. Thanks for coming, Karen.
All right, thanks. See you guys.
All right, guys. See ya.
Bye.